This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.
Hello everybody and welcome to your Monday edition of the Blood Red podcast, brought to you by the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host Theo Squires, and it's mixed feelings here today at Echo HQ, depending on whether your glass is half full or half empty. Liverpool are 9 unbeaten and 3 points clear in the top 4, but a stoppage time rocket from Harrison Reed denied them victory at Fulham on Sunday. So joining me to run the rule over the red strip to Craven Cottage, we have our LFC correspondent, both home and away, Paul Gorst. Gorsty, you didn't get back until the early hours. You had to conquer wintry conditions. You're really dedicated to recording Blood Red, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I'm the consummate professional. Braving the elements to get home. It was particularly treacherous around Stoke as the snow was coming down. But we got home, dropped early off, and we are ready for another podcast where we sort of have a bit of a moan, really, I guess. Certainly I will.
And Mark, I suppose you didn't really have to conquer the wintry conditions so
No, it was
much.
nice.
Just on your sofa at home.
Lovely, nice and warm. Yeah, it was great. Didn't have to do it on a cold Sunday night in Stoke. Got on with watching a game, which was bit of a summing up of the season, wasn't it? Really, all of it in the end.
Before we crack on, shout out to our sponsors, NordVPN. Their welcome offer is still on offer, so why not take advantage? To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link, as always, is in the podcast episode description box. That offer's probably been on so long now that your 2-year plan, if you started right at the beginning, is up, so you can get another 4 months free. But hopefully you can still sign up there, because we do appreciate the support from Nord. We'll go straight into it, Gorsty. It was a strange game, wasn't it? Like, Liverpool didn't start particularly, or they started okay, but then when they conceded, they fell apart a little bit. Better in the second half, somehow find themselves in the lead in stoppage time, only to throw it away. It feels like 2 points dropped.
Yeah. I mean, I think most draws are 2 points dropped for a club the size of Liverpool. There's probably only a handful of games that you're happy to take a point going into it. You know, ironically, Thursday would probably be one of them against Arsenal away. But yeah, it was. You know, they're so close to coming away from Craven Cottage with a hard-fought victory, and you say it's not a particularly great performance, but it's a victory and you move on. But, you know, Harrison Reed with his first goal for nearly 3 years, and what a goal it was. Potentially the goal of the season. And, you know, did Liverpool deserve anything more than that? Probably not. You know, it's just more of the same for me, particularly first half. They are so struggling so badly to piece together any sort of attacking fluency. It's untrue. You know, what is this Liverpool team? What does it stand for? What are its principles? You know, and I get that Isak is out, Salah's not there, Ekitike was injured, but you know, there's just I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall saying that at every pod now. There's just I just don't know what the plan is. I really don't. Florian Wirtz is starting to come good, isn't he? You know, he had a really good December with, you know, a couple of goals against Wolves and Fulham now. So I think he's up to maybe 3 or 4 assists and a couple of goals, and he stood up really during a difficult period. You know, when you think of that winning against Wolves, you know, there's no Salah at the moment, like we say. The assist for Wirtz, for Isak, he's been a bright spot of the last few weeks, but you know, you're still just seeing a team that is terrified to lose rather than one that feels that it has to go and win.
I think I'm right in saying Liverpool haven't come from behind to win in the league since the 5-1 against Tottenham when they clinched the league. So it was...
Last time he played well.
It was pretty much, wasn't it? So it shows how troublesome that first half of the season's been.
Yeah, and it's this habit, isn't it, of just conceding a goal without the team really having to work for it. I think that's ultimately the most damaging thing, I think, when you look back at all these games. It's like the first sniff of a chance and the first time a ball was played forward into a difficult area, but you know, not one that should be leading to a goal. It's a good finish from Harry Wilson. He's having a really good season, isn't he? But you can't keep doing that. You can't keep conceding these goals to just allow a team ahead. You know, a good team like Fulham. They're a good side. All Premier League sides are good sides, but you just give them this goal, and it just. I think that's the maddening thing. Is just they seem to just be almost asleep to this threat, and almost like it doesn't occur to them that could happen. You know, that a player could play a ball and someone else could run onto it and finish it really well. You know, as I say, all these Premier League teams have got really good players and they can do these things. And then at the end as well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I forgot Harrison Replay for Fulham. I feel like I've not seen him for years. He's one of those names that you're like, oh, yeah.
Well, the Fulham lads were surprised themselves. You see, was it the Tom Kearney X-rated reaction? I'm not sure if you've seen the Nigeria camp today.
I saw the Iwobi one. Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah.
And you know, all these teams have threats, and it feels like Liverpool just seems to have been slow to that. Almost, maybe there's a bit of arrogance after winning the league. I'm not sure what it is, but they just seem to be almost unaware of what other teams can do to them. And it's damaging, you know, and ultimately it's ended up in this season now, which is very much a scrap to finish in the top four.
They're not starting the games with any sort of intensity. They're trying to grow into games and wear teams out and, you know, come on strong after the sort of 50, 60-minute mark. But while they're doing that, other teams are having a go. And
there's no confidence that they can actually do it.
Yeah, and as soon as they suffer a setback, okay, you know, they're probably a bit unlucky with the nature of Harrison Reed's goal, but we've seen it so often this season that once they get a little, you know, punch on the nose, as Jurgen Klopp used to say, they just can't really respond to it. And, you know, the rest of that first half, in particular yesterday after Wilson scores, is just so tedious. They didn't get a half chance, did they?
I think Slot, you pointed to the Curtis Jones one, but that's not really a chance, is it? It was
Back
blocked by
heel,
the defender.
Yeah. But no, it's just, they just lack any sort of attacking fluency, and for the midfielders that they've got, Gravenberch in particular, he looks like he's hell bent on never trying to play through the lines. He's just keeping it so safe. And I know that this idea of being patient, but, you know, it's patience to a fault at times. You know, try it occasionally. You know, the risky pass, it might come off, you might get in behind. Too often it's just side to side, shuffle them without any real threat in behind. And when you've got no, you know, pace really, you know, forwards who can stretch the game, you're just left going side to side, aren't you? And would you say it's a decent point if you're sort of looking at it?
They lost there last season.
I mean, they lost there last season. It's always tough, isn't it, Craven Cottage? So in that respect, you probably can't say it's a decent point, but I don't really subscribe to this idea.
The point though there, where every time they drop points, you go, that's a decent point. You can try and get an excuse out of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you can't. You know, when you go 2-1 up in the 94th minute, you can't say anything other than a win is what's required there. And again, it was just another thing of like, yeah, of course that happens this season, doesn't it? You know, how many times have we seen Liverpool over the years, and I know it's annoyed fans of other teams, Liverpool with late winners and comebacks and all sorts of things. And when that went in, when Gakpo scored, you're like, okay, you know what, it's not been great, but it's a sign that the spirit is there, and you know, it's a great cross from Frimpong. Gakpo's done well to get in there, and you're a bit like, all right, you know, that's a building block. That's something that shows that it is all there, and then he goes and bags in the top corner, and it is just, you know, it's hard not to laugh at times. It's a bit like, of course that happens, you know. And as I say, there'll be many times over the years where Liverpool have won games that they haven't deserved to, but maybe this is a bit of karma for that. I don't know, but it's so typical of this season, isn't it, the way things are going.
I want to touch back on the pace there that Gorsty mentioned, because obviously Frimpong comes on, he gets in another assist, and he is the quickest player in that squad by an absolute mile, but he's a wing-back. He's not like Luis Diaz sort of pace. And you think they're going to spend 450 million. They've looked at, say, Isak, better pace, Ekitike, better pace. The fullbacks are obviously quick, but the squad looks so slow. There's so many midfielders that just putting their foot on it, and they look so static. When the crosses were coming in before Frimpong was on, no one, apart from that Jones chance, was making the move to the near post. They're just waiting for the ball to find them. But you don't have Trent who can go and pick them out anymore. So it's just like, how can you spend that much money in the summer and there's no cohesive plan there? You've lacked the pace. You've lacked that killer ball.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah, and just as Mark was talking then, I was trying to think of the amount of points that Liverpool have dropped, you know, late on. And, you know, you look at the Palace game, the Chelsea game, United, you know, yesterday. And look at the points that they've won late on as well. You know, those first 5 games. It was Newcastle at 100th minute, Arsenal, Burnley, Bournemouth. You know, all of these results. There's been so many games where Liverpool are having to play until the last kick of the game, and that inevitably has a knock-on effect for the squad. So it's no surprise that they're looking tired, that they're carrying knocks, that they are having to, you know, looking a bit threadbare at times, like they were yesterday with pretty much no forwards. You know, Gakpo, if you want to call him a centre forward, but it's probably not helping the cause, is it, when they're having to play 96, 97 minutes every week to get a result? You know, even when they've won games, you know, Wolves, that was going to the final knocking, wasn't it? And, you know, no game looks secure. Tottenham, you know, they had 9 men and they were pushing for a stoppage time equaliser. So that, after, you know, the intensity of the Premier League and having to play until the final kick of pretty much every game, inevitably has a knock-on effect for the muscles. So it's this is a byproduct of the performances and not being able to put teams to bed sooner.
Mark, we heard Jamie Carragher call out the centre-backs for the first goal. With Konate, I think he was trying to push up and Van Dijk didn't pull over. But then the midfielders get criticism as well because they didn't drop back. It was just a mess of a goal to concede, even though it was a brilliant finish from Harry Wilson.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's inviting teams on. It's almost giving them a target to aim for. You know, let's play it down the side of Konate because we know they are going to be pushed up. The midfielders aren't going to be there. I mean, I think that is a real concern. I think that the performance of Gravenberch for a while, you know, where he's sort of,
it's helpful, isn't it?
yeah. Was it that bad? Yeah, where he just isn't the same player that we saw in the kind of first half of last season, and you could argue that, you know, he was really the shining light, wasn't he, in the first half of last season, and then there maybe was a bit of a switch where teams perhaps got onto it a bit. And I remember a couple of games in the middle of last season, was it Newcastle away, I think, where it was the first one that he struggled, and it seems to be like...
We saw it in the Anfield derby this year, didn't we, where he was star player first half, but Everton put a man on him second half, and he just disappeared.
And I remember the derby at Goodison last year as well. Everton played against him. Moyes played against him really well.
He got injured in that, didn't he? And he's never really been the same since. I think it was an ankle injury.
And he, you know, for all the stuff that everyone was, everything we said about him last season about him becoming this defensive-minded midfielder, you do often wonder, is that what he wants to be doing?
He just wants to get forward this season.
Yeah, so, and we've seen he scored 4 goals this season, he scored. So,
good finishes too.
You know, there's an argument, and they're just touching on you know, the way the squad is and these games going late. It's a Premier League, you know, you look all across the Premier League, Chelsea got a 94th minute equaliser at Man City, Arsenal are almost hanging on at 3-2 at Bournemouth. Having, you know, the other week they beat Wolves 2-1 with a last minute own goal. Like, this is a Premier League that this is what happens. You know, all games go. It's kind of 94, 95 minutes, 97 minutes. You know, you need to be durable in this league, and it feels a little bit like Liverpool have lost sight of that, I think, and just the way that the squad is made up. And there was all these signings in the summer, but you look at it now, and it's like it just still feels a bit short in all these different areas, and there are specific types of players that they don't have, like and midfield is one of them. You know, one of these kind of, you know, a perhaps destroyer in midfield who could maybe, you know, mix it with teams, and the league has become so physical. You know, all these long throws and corners, and Liverpool again don't seem to have reacted to that, and they might, you know, maybe they don't care for it so much, and they want to play their football, and that's probably what fans would like to see. They want, you know, they don't want long throws, I don't think, all the time, but it's every other team does, and it's working for them, and that's the way the league has gone. So it feels just like they're not prepared for these tests, and that's the thing that's getting me at the moment, is when you look at the squads and there are 3 or 4 lads on every bench that you know are not getting on, you know, and almost filling a spot, aren't they? And so it just feels like it's threadbare, which is crazy given all we spent all summer talking about all the transfers and all the players that came in.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I've seen a debate last night about Arsenal's transfer business compared to Liverpool's, and I don't want to be wise after the event, because when the transfer window closed, I was as loud as anyone and saying what an incredible window Liverpool have had. But Liverpool have spent 440-something million, was it? Recouped about half that in a big changeover, and it seems as though Liverpool prioritised specialist, elite sort of top of the range players in Florian Wirtz, the Bundesliga Player of the Year, Alexander Isak, who the top scorer in the Premier League, Mo Salah aside last season, top scoring non-Liverpool player. These sorts of players, Ekitike, and they've left themselves a little bit short in terms of the depth, whereas Arsenal have maybe, rather than spending 100 million twice, they've spent 50 million, 4 times or whatever.
Yeah.
And they've got themselves more coverage, and they might not necessarily be the same level of player as the ones that have brought in, but they've beefed out the squad. And at times like this, this period of the season, is where it really comes into help. Look at someone like Noni Madueke. I don't necessarily think he's world class or anything like that, but having him as an alternative when Saka is out is perfect, isn't it? And they brought him in for, what was it, 40-50 million, which
He's as well. Like he was starting games when Odegaard was injured. Now Odegaard's come back in and he's doing well.
I mean, there's an argument that none of their signings made the first 11 better.
Yeah.
Even
the only one that shoots the striker.
And that was the one that everyone was calling for. But even with him, I mean, I think Havertz gets a bit of a raw deal at times. I think he's a really good player. They've still got Gabriel Jesus there. So, there's an argument that none of those signings made the first 11 better, whereas with Liverpool, 4 or 5 of them were supposed to make the first 11 better. But and of course there is caveat because there was lots of change, and there were players who wanted to leave, and there's that.
Yeah. Every player who left Liverpool, sorry to interrupt. Every player who left Liverpool wanted to leave, so we can't really say that Liverpool have sort of ushered anyone out the door that way.
The caveat of that is, if Nunes had played more, he'd have wanted to stay. If they'd given Diaz his contract, he'd have wanted to stay, and you've still got that pace. You've still got that ability in front of goal. Sorry to interrupt.
I mean, I'm not having a world where Nunes is still a Liverpool player. Yep. It didn't work, did it? Certainly under Slot it didn't work, but it's tough, isn't it? Because, like I say, I don't want to be, contradicting what I was saying at the beginning of September, because I thought Liverpool had a fantastic window, but as the season has wore on, you've maybe started to see 1 or 2 gaps, like you say there, Mark. There's a handful of players on the bench there who, are never getting on.
No.
Unless, it's to run the clock down or whatever. And that is a concern, really, particularly when someone like Chiesa is coming off the bench, and I know he wasn't on long, but I think he had 1 touch.
Yeah, and the thing is, in this league, as I say, you talk about the physical side of it, it's meaning that teams are dropping points, and that's possibly the positive thing from this is that Liverpool, what Liverpool now 9 unbeaten, is it? And obviously there's
swashbuckling.
Yeah, there's a lot of draws in there. I don't think it takes a lot for them to come 3rd or 4th in this league. But what they do need is they need addition. They need additional players available. Obviously, players will come back from injury. You've got to look in the transfer market, which is open now, but you're not seeing much going on there. So, but you look around at the league, and there's been we're only on the 5th of January, and there's been a couple of managerial sackings in the past few days.
Chelsea and United. Yeah.
2 clubs who are challenging now. They're Liverpool's business, aren't they, this season now?
Managerless United and Chelsea.
Yeah, so they're Liverpool's business now this season. Forget Arsenal. I know they're playing them on Thursday, but forget all that title talk, and you've got to knuckle down and try and come 3rd, 4th. It's probably going to 5th again, isn't it? You'd imagine the Champions League if the teams sort of do the business in Europe. So I think this squad is more than capable of doing that. And that just now needs to be the aim, that they get through. They get through this season, and then there's still the Champions League, there's still the FA Cup to talk about. So that could provide something different in the second half of the season. But in terms of the rest of this season, they need help. I think the squad needs help, because I don't think it takes a lot for them to be able to come 3rd, 4th, 5th.
And also as well, I think when Mo Salah comes back, Mo Salah has to go into the starting lineup again. Yeah. This idea of dropping him, perhaps was a little bit of a sacrificial lamb in that regard, but there was a reason for Slot doing it. He wanted to tighten up, which he has done, but now you want to see the progress up the other end of the pitch, which hasn't really been there. So let's bring him back in. As soon as he comes back from AFCON, get him in there.
I look at the squad and I wonder, where has the depth gone? Like we mentioned, the bench there, and granted they're missing a few players. It's 5 at the moment, but Leone, if he's on your bench, he's not coming on unless you're trying to see out a game or you've had an injury or something. Isak probably starts if everything's good. Salah probably starts if everything's good, or Ekitike. But Endo's not coming on. In an ideal world, well, we know what Slot's like. He's not going to be sending on Chiesa. He's not going to be sending on Andy Robertson or Joe Gomez. There is no attacking depth there because he's not turning to Engamoa, who probably should have come on at some point yesterday, having done all right against Leeds. So it's strange how the squad doesn't feel complete when they've had the summer that they've had.
It feels like he has to play more midfielders, and that feels like because in that world there where Salah's playing and Isak's playing or Ekitike, then perhaps Curtis Jones isn't playing or McAllister isn't playing. So but it's like the way they play now. And the players who aren't available, Slot has to put all his midfielders on the pitch, and you don't. It's not ideal, is it, when you're in a situation?
Very similar as well.
Yeah, it's not ideal when you're in it. In terms of midfielders, he would trust to start games. You've got Gravenberch, you've got McAllister, Jones, Szoboszlai. You can count Wirtz in that. They're all starting on Sunday, aren't they? So you can't. There's no room for rotation. There's no room for depth, as you say, players to bring on, and this is a department of the field that we probably would have said they're kind of okay in, at the start of the season, maybe one short, but it's come as a result of I think they've always been one short in attack. Yes, obviously Isak and Ekitike came in, and then it depends where you want to count Wirtz, but they were still an attacker short after selling Diaz, a wide attacker. And that's sort of coming home to roost a bit now when you're not seeing these options, and he's having to turn to Chiesa, who, let's be honest, he doesn't trust, and it's just not going to happen, is it? I think for as popular as he is and everything, everyone likes singing about him, it's just not going to happen for him. You end up being grateful that Gakpo's back because he can do a job up there, and I thought he did perfectly well. Snatched a couple of chances, didn't he? But got his goal, and it should have been the winner. And that would have been a story, wouldn't it? If they were able to get out there with the win. Gakpo's gone and done a job in a position that he hadn't played since end of Klopp, maybe. Yeah. And that would have been a good story. But yeah, this season there's always a bit of a sting in the tail, isn't there? And it's just left more questions, obviously, because we're going over them now.
Ultimately, I think Liverpool will be okay as well in terms of don't think they're in any real danger of missing out on the top four. I think they will probably consolidate that at some stage, to piece together a little bit of a run or continue this, steamrolling unbeaten run that they're on. But it's more just, are you asking the fans to put up with this brand of football now for 4 months? It's going to be a tough watch if so, and I don't necessarily think it's going to change anytime soon either, because this pattern has been really set in now for a real number of months. Like I said, then they haven't played well this season. I can make an allowance for Arsenal at home because that's a really tough game and you've just got to play the cat and mouse and you eventually win it with a wonder goal. Newcastle away, I've said a few times, that's a really tough game. Big win. But other than that, there's been not a lot to set the pulses racing, really, as to the season.
Can't you argue, though, that the unbeaten run is papering over the cracks because United have been poor and dropping points, because Chelsea have been poor and dropping points? Liverpool are 3 clear in the top 4. But if the competition had been stronger, they wouldn't be anywhere near it. And now both those sides have made managerial changes. Granted, that was more tensions off the pitch than what was happening on the pitch. Yeah. But there could be a new manager bounce. That could turn things around, and you could see them go on a run that Liverpool don't look capable of putting together at the moment. Yeah, very true, yeah. And particularly with the next game coming up, theoretically the toughest one of the season, isn't it? And Arsenal away, it's going to be really, really tough. I'd deal on a draw now, get out of there and assess what the league looks like sort of after the FA Cup fixtures. But yeah, you're right, it could be a new manager bounce. It looks like Chelsea are going to get in Liam Rosenior, doesn't it? United have only just sacked Amorim at the time of recording. Some suggestions that is it Darren Fletcher taking over till the end of the season? Maybe Oliver Glasner from Palace goes there in the summer. So yeah, let's see what happens. Both of those teams have been inconsistent for not the first half of the season for years now, really, haven't they? So Liverpool at least have that in their favour if they can string together a bit of a run. But it's just frustrating that Leeds at home and Fulham away, normally you would expect Liverpool to get maximum points, and had they done that top 4 race now would not necessarily be sewn up, but they'd have so much breathing space that they'd be able to afford a stumble or two, couldn't they? But at the moment it is very tight. Do a little bit on Florian Wirtz now. A rare performance from him back in the number 10 position. There were glimpses there. A bit of controversy about his goal. What did you make of it all, Mark?
I couldn't quite believe it got given. It was one of those where I know it was quite strange, obviously, with the Wilson one as well, that you get two of those in the same game. So I was kind of thinking when it went to it, it's like, oh yeah, I mean that won't be.
It's just whatever they decide, isn't it? It's a nonsense.
Yeah, well, it's the thing, isn't it? So I was reading about it last night. So it is this kind of margin of error they have, basically, which has always been there. Well, not say always, but the last sort of 3 or 4 years. But I think this has been one of the clearest examples of what they actually do.
So
where
we all assume you can go 2 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, it's basically one of them, isn't it? Yeah, it's something like that, where it's like, oh, okay, so you can be offside then. So it's all right. Apparently, you can be offside now. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't really understand why at first. I think it was so cute because you could see it because of where the penalty spot and then the cut of the grass. It just looked, oh yeah, he's clearly off. But yeah, it was a strange one. And
all about the tolerance level, apparently. According to Dale Johnson.
He'll know. Yeah, he'll know. Tolerance. What's the tolerance for what?
In terms of, I don't know. I don't know. Being honest.
Yeah, it's what it is. It was just, and I think the kind of the argument why they're doing it is in those first few years of VAR, you were getting these very marginal ones running, and it was all about the lines, wasn't it? And now it's kind of like if the lines are touching. When they, I know they don't show it as much anymore, but when the lines are drawn, if they're touching, then they decide he's actually on, because that is the margin of error that they
tolerance
exist.
Level.
But then surely, if the linesman has flagged him, then you should be gone without, shouldn't you? Really, you should be sticking with the on-field decision. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, it was odd. It was a good finish. Yeah, it was. Look, it's nice. It's nice that he's getting a bit more. A bit more involved in front of goal now. He's played well, hasn't he, for 6 weeks or so now. Feels like it's got a little bit under the radar, I think, because obviously there's the goals and the assists thing, and I think you get a bit of a narrative around players, don't you? And I think a lot of people were a bit like happy to push this. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. And let's be honest, of course, we're expecting much more from him in the goals and the assists. But he's played well. He's been a sort of one of the best players for, I think, 6 weeks now, easily. So he was heavily involved in that. He was involved in most of the good things Liverpool did, wasn't he? The fitness thing is an issue, isn't it? Because he keeps having to take him off. But that again is an offshoot, I think, of just this squad perhaps not being built for the physical demands of this league. So he's having to withdraw him, and didn't even pick Ekitike because of clearly the build-up of issues he's had of having to start every game. You'd like to think both will be there against Arsenal, but then you'd be shocked if both of them finished the game, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's basically, and that's going to be another tough Premier League game that's going to go all the way. So he's coming into his own, I think, a little bit, and you can tell he's got good relationships with the players, and some of the link-up play he's coming up with players like Curtis Jones, and there's a bit with Bradley for the goal. He's forming these relationships. You'd just obviously like to see more around him, I think.
When he gets some pace and movement ahead of him, I think he's going to really come into his own, because he's had a really good December. You look at what he's contributed really in terms of moments. That goal against Sunderland, which he doesn't get given, but it might as well be his goal. It earned Liverpool a point, didn't it? The winner against Wolves, what turned out to be the winner. He equalises yesterday. Equalises, doesn't he? And just starting to look like a player who is getting used to things. So I think that he is finding his feet at a time when generally it's been a bit of a difficult watch. I think that augurs well, really, for a time when Isak is back, Ekitike is fit, and Salah's there as well. So yeah, he's had a good few weeks, and I thought he'd be disappointing on New Year's Day against Leeds, but there was the slight concern over the hamstrings, which he's a Germany. He's come from Germany, hasn't he? Where he hasn't had a winter break before. Oh, sorry, has had a winter break
carefully since the international break, haven't they? Because he came back injured from that.
Yeah. So apart from that Leeds game,
hopefully he gets through Arsenal, and then you can give him sort of 10 days, can't you? You can give him a break.
I think that'll be the message, only to get through this, go to the well again, and then give you the break. on the other side of the Barnsley game. I'm not even sure who Liverpool have got on the other side of that.
Burnley.
Yeah. So, he's had a decent December, hasn't he? And just needs to build on it now. So that was encouraging yesterday. One of a few positives, him and Frimpong, I'd say.
What do you see as his long-term position now? Because obviously for the last month we've seen him on that left-hand side. Now Cody Gakpo's back, but he was signed to be the number 10, and he's not really had a proper run with either of the strikers in front of him because of injuries and things not going well for Liverpool. You just want him to see those moments together, and there have been glimpses like the Tottenham goal for Isak, his own goal against Wolves when Ekatike's run down the left and threaded him through, but we get to see it in that 90 minutes and get to see really what his position is going to be properly.
I'd keep him coming from the left, I think, for now. That's obviously where he did a lot of his good work in Germany, and I know there was lots of talk when he signed about he'd been convinced about this number 10 role, hadn't he? But you just saw at the start of the season that it wasn't working properly, and I think playing him there, I might consider it more playing him there if the midfielders behind him were in better form.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we've seen in the last few weeks is this solidity, isn't it? And Slot's almost gone for solidity. Perhaps he doesn't trust perhaps the players individually, but he's thinking, well, if I put as many of them on there as I can, then they are going to play in a certain way. They are going to keep the ball, and Curtis Jones is very good at that, isn't he? And so I think I'd like to see him perhaps coming off that left, and then you've perhaps almost solved one of the problems, which was at the start of the season there wasn't the competition to rotate with Gakpo, and you saw essentially Gakpo got played into an injury, didn't he, by being overplayed, and he became a bit of a lightning rod for a lot of criticism, hasn't he, Gakpo? But I think he was overplayed at a time when he shouldn't really have been. So if you maybe say to and then you got Salah perhaps coming back to play on the right, you can pick one of the centre forwards, you can play Szoboszlai, and then you can choose Jones or McAllister with Gravenberch, 2 of the 3, and maybe that's a base to build from. And you say to Wirtz, yes, that's your starting position on the left, but he's gonna pop up, isn't he? As he did for the goal, he's gonna be floating around the pitch, and he's gonna be getting involved. So I'd maybe go with that when Salah's back, but that might still be a little way off yet. He's playing today, isn't he?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Expect them to get through.
You'd expect them to get through, and so he'll carry on. And so you're probably looking at, beyond Burnley, perhaps as to when it's round about then.
He's
isn't
basically
it?
out for the entire tournament now, no matter what happens, because you're not going to rush him back to be back against Barnsley. Burnley, I think, is the weekend of the final. Yes. Is it then Marseille after that? Which, say he won it and Egypt had a homecoming, he'd maybe be at risk for missing Marseille. But
yeah, well, you might say if they were knocked out in the quarters or the semis, where you'd have him on the bench for Burnley, maybe. So either way, he's not going to be there for Arsenal, and that is a game that he's going to want to go with this solid approach again, isn't he? And he's going to want to pack it with as many midfielders as possible.
No Ekatike, obviously, for the one just gone. There's a MRI scan on a hamstring injury. Where are we looking at with that one, Ghosty? Could he be out for Arsenal?
Arne Slot seemed quite hopeful, didn't he? That it was just DOMS, which is just like a muscle issue. I can't remember exactly what it stands for. I did write it yesterday, but yeah, he did seem quite hopeful. And I think if you were choosing the one that he had to miss, then it's probably going to be Fulham rather than Arsenal. He's going to be needed, isn't he? He's the way the Slot has gone to sort of tighten Liverpool up is basically naming 5 midfielders. So Liverpool, Wirtz and Szoboszlai might be operating in the wide areas, but they're definitely tucking in narrow, and Liverpool essentially become a 5-4-1. So that one up front has to shoulder a lot of the burden, and sort of not 100% Cody Gakpo did okay at times yesterday, but I think Ekatike, having him back on the pitch on Thursday against Liverpool, a lot better chance of coming away from there with the points. And Slot did sound relatively hopeful in his post-match press conference.
And Arsenal, it doesn't get any easier than that, does it? Or harder, I should say, depending on how sarcastic you think I'm being. But it's a strange game in terms of Liverpool have got a decent record there in recent years, but it can either inspire them to reach new levels and put in their performance of the season, or they concede early, and it's like City away. They can go and lose 3-4-0.
Yeah, there's a couple of games. There was a Saka goal early on, wasn't there, a year or so ago, and a couple of defeats there, I can remember, which Liverpool almost walked into it a little bit, and then Arsenal get themselves very revved up for this game, don't they? And they will be again. The results obviously have gone their way at the weekend. 6 points clear, is it now? it's it's a bit of a delay. There's going to be more games on Wednesday, so this game's coming on Thursday. They'll have to build up for it, and they've got that scent now, haven't they? That this should really, let's be honest, they should really win it from here with the lead they've got. The thing about them that everyone always says, obviously, is that perhaps if the nerves do kick in and they get a bit, they remind themselves of all these second place finishes and I mean, I think they must be kicking themselves about the Anfield game still. The way they played in that game, I thought was unbelievable. Really, like they just didn't they didn't make any sort of concerted effort to try and hurt a Liverpool side that we've since seen the weaknesses in. And
the only best for him is Liverpool aren't the side challenging them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they and obviously Szoboszlai got that goal, which has ended up that those results at the start of the season have been crucial, haven't they? Because who knows where Liverpool will be without them? But Arsenal, Liverpool are going to have to try and be solid. They can't concede early. They can't they can't kind of walk into what Arsenal will want, which will be this revved up game, the set pieces, everything else. We know they're coming. We know the corners and the free kicks will be raining in, and it's going to be a very, very big game for Van Dijk and for Konate and for Alisson as well, because they're all going to be around him. It's a huge test. It's the biggest test, I think, of the season, and it's almost like Arsenal have become everything that Liverpool haven't been this season, as being sturdy and they've, as I say, became a little bit of a joke, didn't it? All these years, them coming close to winning the league, and then you looked at last season and when City dropped away, and it was Liverpool who took advantage of that, and Arsenal's failings came back to haunt them, really. So they're a very good team. They're a team full of massive players, and they'll get them all out on the pitch on Thursday. And it as long as Liverpool can try and stay solid for as long as they can in the game, stay in the game, just stay in the game as long as they can, as long as it's 0-0, for as long as it can be 0-0. Then there'll be nerves there, I think, because, as I say, they are whipping themselves up into this bit of a frenzy now about winning this title, which doesn't really get said. I mean, for all those years, it felt like every year, Liverpool, it was, it's 25 years, it's 26 years, it's 27 years. For Arsenal, it's 22, is it? Mm-hmm. It's a long time since that invincible team, isn't it? That's the last
Liverpool
one.
Liverpool would have won more in those years than
Arsenal
did. They won
a few FA Cups
Leagues
and things, haven't they? But so it's it's a huge, huge thing for them. Arteta, you'd say, is almost staking his managerial reputation, and they have to do it from here, otherwise it will be seen as a huge failure. So maybe Liverpool can try and play on that and try and make them a bit nervous. The worry is, I mean, have this team got the character to go and do that, and you don't necessarily trust them to do it there.
Yeah, I think Liverpool can defend Arsenal quite well if they all chip in, essentially. We've seen Liverpool be able to tighten it up. They don't concede many chances. It's just, and Arsenal, not, clearly the league leaders, but they're not the most exhilarating team to watch, are they? So I think Liverpool can hang in there, but my worry is, are they capable of landing a blow the other end on a counter-attack? They're not quite the team they were in the the counter transitions that they've become famous for, really, certainly under Jurgen Klopp. It's a little bit different at the moment, particularly with the players that they've got out, so they're going to have to dig deep and, let's see what can happen. I would absolutely snatch your hand off for the draw right now.
And one advantage Arsenal will have is those injuries that they seem to have last month are dried up. It's only really Calafiori who stays in the starting 11, who's not going to be available, I don't think. But they've also had an extra day recovery because they played on the Saturday. And you look at the side they put out against Bournemouth, they made changes. So they're going to bring all the big guns back, whereas Arne Slot hasn't been able to have that liberty because Ekatike's had to come out because of an injury. Everyone else has just had to play through.
Yeah, they rested Saka, didn't they, at Bournemouth?
Trossard as well.
Yeah, so obviously with this game in mind, and maybe, Slot's just got to see it as this is the last game of this run, I think, and there will be a bit of a reset. I mean, we spoke about it earlier, but that Barnsley FA Cup game, you could see any side put out for that, and maybe we'll get a game. I don't know. Like something's
take our boots.
I'm not sure.
We've seen that far too often this season.
I'm not sure what that team will look like, but I think if you Slot right now, you're not even thinking about that, and you're trying to. I mean, look, maybe there's a world where they can rally the troops and they can go there. The piece with Van Dijk you did talking about the fighting, and like They have to do that. They have to do that. They have to go there and stand up and try and be counted. And no one's saying it's going to be easy, but I just think that there have been signs that these last, we'll keep saying it, the unbeaten run, as glorious as it is, they have toughened up in that. Leeds was a horrendous game of football, but they didn't have a chance, did they? Fulham could probably score more goals. Wilson's hit the bar as well, hasn't he? And there were other chances for them there. So they'll need to get back to being a bit more solid. Arsenal are going to test them, not with the most free-flowing football. That's the thing. And so it is going to be these set pieces. They're going to be working on them now.
I mean, a real test for the post-Darren Briggs Liverpool.
I was going to say, who's doing that? Who's, what a time to have no set piece specialist around. If he was even that, he wasn't really, was he? But it is going to be a game that, for all we spoke about Liverpool not playing good football at the minute, not playing most scintillating football, fans will be absolutely fine with that, going to Arsenal and getting a result if they can be solid and go and grind out a draw, or who knows, maybe even a little win.
Go do our lineups now. What are you thinking for the back four, Gorsty? Would you bring in? I suppose Frimpong deserves a recall, but it's where you play him.
Yeah.
Was Andy Robertson come back in? Are you sticking with Kirkhouse?
Yeah, probably would actually. Robertson just gives you a little bit more know-how, doesn't he? And he has a tough time in Saka at times, but he wasn't, I guess. I'm going to recall Robertson, and Conor Bradley stays in the team. Yeah.
You going the same, or are you keeping Kirkhouse?
I think I might stick with Kirkhouse. I think he obviously can be erratic, but I just think if you do pick Robertson, I think that'll be the talk pre-game, won't it? Is like Saka's going to be going at Robertson, and it will be for Kirkhouse as well, to be honest. But maybe they do like a 60-30 thing, and I'd maybe just go with Kirkhouse though, just for extra pace.
And you having Bradley as well?
Yes, yeah, keep Bradley there. Frimpong obviously did well when he came on, but I think he'll be needed higher up later on.
Okay, and what are you doing for midfield then?
What am I doing for midfield? Good question.
McAllister didn't really work again as the deep option. He's not as the number 10 either.
No, but again, where are the options? What are you?
Yeah,
you'd say Curtis Jones is the first one, almost guaranteed pick at the minute, and you have to pick Gravenberch because again, there's no one else. Where do you want to pick Szoboszlai? Do you want to put him wide? You know what? I might just go with. I'm going to drop McAllister, and I'm going to have Gravenberch, Jones, and Szoboszlai playing in there with them. Yeah,
I was thinking that myself actually. I think give myself in my forward line now. I think the chance for Frimpong, particularly on counters. We spoke about the pace and the ability to hurt Arsenal that way. There's no one better to do it than him. So I'm going to pick him wide right. Szoboszlai, Jones, and Gravenberch, and let's hope Ekitike makes it. He starts and Wirtz off the left with Gakpo off the bench.
Yeah. I was initially thinking Frimpong to come on, but I think I'd start him actually, just to give them something to think about. Going the other way. The pace of him. Wirtz off the left, and then I've just got a feeling he's going to be cautious with Ekitike, so he might start Gakpo, bring Ekitike on.
I suppose it depends going forward because we keep saying it's Barnsley, and then you've got a few days rest. If it's not a serious injury, you do risk. You can risk.
Yeah. I mean, I'd look if it was me, and we know he's fit. I mean, if he is fit, I'm picking Ekitike. I just think I've got a feeling Slot might be a bit cautious with him, and maybe take the view that this game will still be live with half an hour to go, and perhaps Ekitike can come on. You might only be fit enough to do.
60
something like that. So yeah, I'd go with that.
Especially, I've got the same argument for Gakpo as well. He's only just back from injury too. Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of this Liverpool squad, that they're having to power through despite knocks and everything. But I think Slot said that they're going to have to take a few risks after Isak broke his leg, potentially.
Yeah.
Were you in that press conference? Or?
No, I can't remember now. But
it might have been a pre-match one.
Yeah, it does seem as if the options are drying up, doesn't it? I mean, not necessarily in midfield because he's been picking 5 midfielders every week, so they've all been fit if needed. But certainly up front, Liverpool are looking really threadbare to the point where we've just picked Jeremy Frimpong in our front three, both of us. So
need Ngamo to absolutely tear Barnsley apart to stake his claim a bit more. Score predictions now. How confident are you feeling?
Do you know what? 0-0.
Yeah, okay.
I thought it was funny.
Liverpool clean sheet. What? I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go 1-1.
I'm thinking it's going to be like 2-0 Arsenal. I've just no confidence in this at all. But then I think when we've had no confidence with these predictions before, when Liverpool actually surprisingly turn up. So maybe we'll see.
I mean, they've got witness. They're in different circumstances, but they've won at big away games. They've won away at Tottenham. They've won away at Newcastle. They tend to have turned up for these big matches. Only City they didn't, but maybe there's something there they can tap into. I just want them to be sort of solid, and
They've been better away from home during this unbeaten run as well.
Yeah, I mean, for all the criticism I've give them on this pod, what they have been decent at lately will hold them in good stead, in a game like Arsenal away. So maybe it could be a similar thing to Inter, where they just go and dig in, and it's a bit of a humdrum game, and they kind of come away with a really good result.
Well, fingers crossed. I promised you at the start of the show that it'd be a mixed feelings depending on your glass being half full or half empty. I don't think we've changed that at all, do we, with those predictions? That's all we've got time for. Thanks to you all at home for tuning in, and thanks to Gorsty and Mark for joining me. We'll be back later in the week to look back on that trip to Arsenal, though we might have to do a few changes as well, because Gorsty will be actually on the road travelling back from Arsenal when we're recording. I'm Theo Squires, and you've been listening to the Blood Red Podcast.
This is the Blood Red Podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.